All right, so today we're going to break down the absolutely wild collapse of one of the internet's most iconic streamers. For 4 long years, there was this huge mystery swirling around Dr. Disrespect's sudden ban from Twitch. But when the truth finally came out, wow, it set off a chain reaction, a total implosion, both professionally and personally, that was just unlike anything we've ever really seen in the streaming world.
So to really wrap your head around this collapse, you first have to understand the character himself. I mean, Herschel Guy Beam wasn't just some guy playing video games. No, he was Dr. Disrespect. You know the look, the black mullet, the tactical vest, the iconic sunglasses. It was this whole loud, completely over-the-top persona, the self-proclaimed 2-time champion. And that character, that wasn't just a gimmick. It was the foundation of his entire empire.
And you know, for a really long time, that empire seemed totally untouchable. The guy was an absolute titan in the streaming world. But then, in the summer of 2020, right at the absolute peak of his career, everything just changed in an instant. And it kicked off this mystery that honestly had the entire gaming community scratching their heads for years.
Okay, so let's just run through his rise, because it was insane. He goes full-time in 2015, and by 2018, he's pulling in these massive crowds. That leads to a huge, lucrative, multi-year deal with Twitch in early 2020. I mean, the man was literally on top of the world. And then, just a few months later, June 26th, 2020, poof, he's gone, permanently banned. And the craziest part? Total radio silence. Not a word from him, not a word from Twitch about why.
So in that 4-year vacuum where nobody knew anything, Dr. Disrespect didn't just fade away. Oh no, he did something really smart. He crafted this powerful news story, a narrative that would basically define his entire second act.
He just hops over to YouTube, right? And he brings his massive, loyal fan base with him. And over there, he starts to very skillfully build this narrative that he was wronged, that he was the victim of some big, bad corporate conspiracy. It was a classic David versus Goliath story, right? Him against the faceless Twitch corporation. And man, was it a compelling story. It absolutely worked.
And I mean, this really shows you just how effective that whole narrative was. His fans, they were all in. They bought the merch, they joined his Champions Club, and they would fiercely defend him against any rumor that popped up. This fan comment here says it all. They saw him as this brave guy fighting back against the system. And because of that, their loyalty, it became totally ironclad.
But after 4 years of all that speculation and all those rumors, the silence finally broke. And when it did, that whole victim narrative that he had so carefully built, it didn't just crack, it completely shattered.
Yeah, this was the moment right here. This is when everything changed. A former Twitch employee named Cody Connors comes out and alleges that the real reason for the ban was because Doc was texting a minor back in 2017 using Twitch's private message feature called Whispers, and not just texting, but with the intent to meet up at TwitchCon. And just like that, for the first time, we had a concrete and incredibly serious explanation.
So what does Dr. Disrespect do? He immediately goes on the defensive. He doesn't really touch the specifics of the allegation at all. Instead, he tries to frame it as this old, legally settled thing, claiming no wrongdoing was ever admitted and that Twitch even paid out his contract in full. He was basically trying to put a lid on the story and shut it down, fast.
But he couldn't shut it down. Not this time. What came next was just a catastrophic collapse, both professionally and personally. And it all happened in just a matter of days.
The very first domino to fall was a big one, a really big one. Midnight Society, the game studio that he literally co-founded, put out a statement publicly cutting all ties with him. Think about that. This wasn't just some sponsor dropping him. This was his own company. The fallout was starting from the inside out.
And after that, it was just a cascade. The San Francisco 49ers, his longtime sponsor Turtle Beach, the game Rogue Company, NBA 2K, one after another, they all dropped him. Rogue Company even started offering refunds for his in-game skin, which is wild. And then YouTube delivered the gut punch. They suspended his channel's monetization. The message couldn't have been clearer. Dr. Disrespect was now a massive brand risk.
So with his entire professional life in an absolute freefall, the pressure was just immense. It basically forced him to put out another statement. And while this one changed the entire game.
And there it was. He admitted it. He came out and said, were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017? The answer is yes. Now, he immediately followed that up by denying any real intentions behind them, calling the messages inappropriate, but insisting nothing illegal happened. But for a lot of people, that partial admission, that was all the confirmation they needed. You know, it's fascinating when you compare how he handled this to a past controversy. Remember back in 2017 with the infidelity scandal? He actually took off the costume. He came on screen as Guy Beam, the person, and gave this really raw human apology for his stupid mistakes. But this time in 2024, with much more serious allegations on the table, he stayed in character, hiding behind the shades, and just kept blaming a conspiracy.
Okay, so the professional fallout was devastating, right? But the personal collapse? Man, you could argue that was even worse. That whole boys club vibe, the friends he built his content around for years, it just started to completely crumble.
And this all really came to a head with his closest ally in the scene, Nick Merckx. So at first, Nick Merckx is defending him, right? He's demanding proof. But the second Doc posts that admission, Nick Merckx does a complete 180 and immediately condemns him. Doc's response? He gets on stream and retaliates, calling his former friends phonies. And that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin. They were done.
And trust me, Nick Merckx did not mince words. He got on his stream and made it crystal clear that this was a line you just don't cross. The friendship was over, period. In his eyes, there was absolutely no way to defend what Doc had admitted to.
And then came the final blow. This absolutely brutal assessment that went viral almost instantly. He basically drew a line between Doc's past infidelity, calling him a dog for that, and this news situation, where he labeled him a weirdo. I mean, can you imagine? That was such a humiliating public takedown from the guy who was once his closest friend in the business.
And it wasn't just Nick Merckx either. You had other big names from his circle, like Dr. Lupo, talking about the importance of accountability. But maybe the single biggest blow came from Z Lehner. This was his main streaming partner since the day he left Twitch. Z Lehner was the absolute backbone of his daily content, and he just walked away. He said it plainly. He's just not on board with inappropriately talking to minors.
So think about it. No sponsors, his own studio's gone, his closest friends have turned on him. What's even left? The aftermath of all this left his once unstoppable career just hanging by a thread.
And the numbers, well, they tell a pretty stark story. His YouTube channel lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers, just bleeding them out. And when he tried to pivot, signing a deal to stream over on Rumble, his viewership just dropped off a cliff, down by 50%. It really seemed like the magic was gone.
And then, in a final, kinda ironic twist, just one single day after YouTube decided to remonetize his channel, what happens? His biggest side project, his studio, Midnight Society, announced it was shutting down for good. So any real hope of a major comeback, it was pretty much over before it even got started.
So this whole collapse of Dr. Disrespect really leaves us with a big, important question. In this industry that's built on these larger-than-life personas, these characters, where do you draw the line? Can you ever really separate the mask from the person wearing it? And when really serious accusations come to light, where does the performance stop and real-world accountability begin?